Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander Forge. My name is Andy Bentley, and the Forge is an area for me to talk about Magic, Commander, and anything else while I try and drag this whole mental health thing back to where it's supposed to be. Now, I have not recorded a podcast in a couple of weeks because I have not been feeling great. Mostly, I've just been super worn down, like struggling to keep my eyes open on the weekends kind of deal. But I was going through some cards the other day and I came across this small stack of battles. And battles were a space I didn't really get into exploring much. There were a couple that I was like, oh yeah, this is fine to just throw into a deck. But when I was going through these cards, I found this stack and it got me thinking. There are only 36 cards that include the type battle, which doesn't seem like a ton, but I feel like there's got to be some kind of synergy there. I know there's some that have no synergy, but it got me thinking. So I went through and I figured out that the majority of them flip into creatures. 23 of them, in fact, flip into creatures. 2 of them flip into sorceries. 7 flip into enchantments. 3 flip into artifacts. And 1 flips into a planeswalker. Now, I will say a couple of the creatures are artifact creatures if you care about the, semantics. But it got me thinking, what could I do to really get, the majority of these into a deck? And so I kind of had to sit down and look at, well, what are they and what do they do? So a card that I feel is going to be terribly important to this is Begin the Invasion, which is Wooburg and X. To search your library for up to X battle cards with different names, put them onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. So this doesn't lock you into just putting them on one opponent. And, you'll play some naturally just from drawing them, but you get this and you go, well, I've got 7 more in my deck. I might as well just go get them all kind of deal. And then the other one that kind of fueled this 5-color thing here is the Invasion of Alara. So again, that's Wooburg for a siege. It has 7 battle points. I don't know what the points on them are called. 7 toughness. I don't know. But when it enters the battlefield, you exile cards from the top of your library until you exile 2 non-land cards with mana value 4 or less. You cast one of those cards without paying its mana cost, and then you put one of them into your hand, put the rest of the cards this way out of the bottom of your library in a random order. But when you flip it, it becomes a sorcery, Awaken the Maelstrom. It is all colors. Target player draws 2 cards. You may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield, create a token that's a copy of a permanent you control, and distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 creatures you control. Destroy target permanent and opponent controls. So, very powerful, very much so, and kind of where I'm leaning with this. Don't get me wrong, Invasion of Arcavios is very strong. It's 3 blue for a 7 battle siege. When it enters, you search your library for a library, graveyard, and or outside the game for an instant or sorcery card you own. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then if you search your library this way, shuffle. And that flips into the Invocation of the Founders, which is an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, you may copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Again, not bad, but not necessarily what I think we want to do. I feel like we're going to be focused more on the ones that will flip into creatures and other things. Things like the Invasion of Belanon. 2 and a white for a 5 battle, 5 point battle. I don't know. But when it enters the battlefield, you make a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with vigilance. And then on its backside is the Belenon War Anthem, which is just an anthem. It's an enchantment and gives creatures you control +1/+1. The Invasion of Dominaria is 2 and a white for a 5-point battle. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life and draw a card, and when it flips, it turns into a Sarah Angel called Sarah Faithkeeper. It's an angel with flying vigilance, and it's a 4/4. Then we've got the Invasion of Eldraine, which is 3 and a black for a 4-point battle. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent discards 2 cards, which is, fine. But then it turns into the Prickle Fairies, which is a creature with flying, and at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 2 or fewer cards in hand, it deals 2 damage to them. So that one really wants you to be playing like discard effects, and that's not necessarily something we're going to be doing, but having another 2/2 in the air to hit your battles kind of makes sense. Looking at the Invasion of Ergamon, which is a red and a green for a 5-point battle. When it enters the battlefield, you make a treasure, then you can discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. And it flips into the Truga Cliff Charger. It's a 3/4 with trample, and when it enters the battlefield, you can discard a card. If you do, search your library for a land card or a battle card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. Then let's not forget, we also have a board wipe here in the Invasion of Fiora, which is 4 black for a 4-point battle. When it enters, you can choose one or both to destroy all legendary creatures or all non-legendary creatures. And it flips into Marchesa, the Resolute Monarch. She has Menace, Death Touch, and whenever she attacks, remove all counters from up to 1 target permanent. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you haven't been dealt combat damage since you last turn, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So, she will be good because once she gets going, she can also just remove the counters off of the battles and flip them that way. Next up, we have the Invasion of Gobakon, 1 and a white for a 3-point battle. When it enters the battlefield, look at target opponent's hand. You can exile a non-land card from it. For as long as that card remains exiled, they can play it, but it costs 2 more. And it flips into the Light Shield Array, which is an enchantment that says at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that attacked this turn. You can sacrifice the array to give creatures you control hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. Next up, we have the Invasion of Ikoria, which is X green for a 6-point battle. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for and or graveyard for a non-human creature card with mana value extra less, put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle. And then it turns into Zilortha, the Apex of Ikoria. It has reach, and for each non-human creature you control, you may have that creature assigned as combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Man, I don't know. There's just so many, and they don't all kind of want to do the same thing. Like the Invasion of New Capenna. It's white and a black for a 4-point battle. When it enters the battlefield, you can sacrifice an artifact or creature. If you do, you exile an artifact or creature an opponent controls. And it flips into the Holy Frazzle Cannon, which I just love to say. But whenever the equipped creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature and each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. And I'm not saying we couldn't kind of work around that in ways, but there's a lot of non-same creature types just here in the battles. Matter of fact, I think there's Let's see, we've got Angel Knight, Human Wizard, God, Serpent, Dragon, Human Monk, Construct, Beast, Ooze, Goblin Spellshaper, Dryad, Elf Warrior, Merfolk Ninja. Let's see what else. Dinosaur, Rhino, Fairy, Human Noble, Angel, Zombie Elemental, Zombie. So there is some that are, overlapping, but not many. And the way I'm kind of thinking about this is like one of the 5-color dragons, or something 5-color that has flying, so that the whole goal is to be able to just try and get in and flip these. I don't necessarily want to go through the rest of them, but let's talk about. Let's see. We talk about that one. And that one. Yeah. So, next up we have the Invasion of Kaldheim, which is 3 in a red for a 4-point siege battle thing. When it enters, exile all cards from your hand, then draw that many cards. Until the end of your next turn, you may play cards exiled this way. And it flips into the Pyre of the World Tree. It's an enchantment, and it says discard a land card. Pyre of the World Tree deals 2 damage to any target. And whenever you discard a land card, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Well, that's not, super duper powerful. It is something that can kind of fit into any strategy that we want to do. And then I think the last one I want to talk about right now is the Invasion of Tarkir, which is 1 in a red for a 5-point battle. And when it enters the battlefield, reveal any number of dragon cards from your hand. When you do, it deals X plus 2 damage to any other target, where X is the number of cards revealed this way. X can be 0, but more importantly, it flips into the Defiant Thundermaw, which is a 4/4 dragon with flying, trample, and whenever a dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage to any target. So this one is kind of why I was leaning towards like a 5-color dragon in the command zone. Because if you can like land this, flip this, now you get to start pinging all of the battles for 4 while you swing at other battles and other players. So it's just kind of where I am. Let's see, this one also flips into a flyer. So the Invasion of Ulgolthra, which is 4 and a black for a 5-pointed battle. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life. And it flips into Grandmother Ravi Sengir. She's a human vampire with flying. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on the Grandmother Ravi Sengir, and you gain 1 life. Let's see, you also have flying. The Invasion of Xerix, which is 2, a white and a blue for a 4-pointed battle. When it enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. And it turns into the Varix Paladin, which is a star angel knight with flying. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. And like there's still so many I didn't touch on, but I think I kind of get my point across. Like there is a lot of these battles that will like flip into useful things. And I'm leaning like Okagachi, I think is a 7-power dragon commander. Or something along those lines. Something with upwards of 7 power and flying and Wooburg. You know what I mean? So just with a cursory glance at the 5-color commanders, the Ones that stand out currently are the Dragon, but I don't really want to go that route. Tiamat might be fine. She's 2 in Wooburg for a 7/7 Dragon God. When she enters the battlefield, if you cast it, search your library for up to 5 dragon cards not named Tiamat that have different names, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle. And she might work if I want to go with like the actual full dragons route as like the other creatures in the deck. But there was also Okagachi Vengeful Kami, which is a Wooburg and 1 for a 6/6 dragon spirit with flying and trample. And when it deals combat damage to a player, if that player attacks you during their last turn, you can exile target non-land permanent that player controls. I'm less leaning that one. And then there is a case for Niv-Mizzet Reborn. It's Wooburg for a 6/6 dragon avatar with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you reveal the top 10 cards of your library for each color pair. Choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them. Put the chosen cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Not all of the battles are 2-color, but there is a good selection of them that are. But again, that's really not where I'm leaning. I'm actually leaning towards the other Niv-Mizzet. Where is it? Niv-Mizzet Guild Pact. Wooburg for a 6/6 dragon avatar. Flying. Hexproof from multicolored. And when Niv-Mizzet deals combat damage to a player, it deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards, you gain X life, where X is the number of different colored pairs among permanents you control that are exactly 2 colors. So, I like this because you can still hit players, and as long as you have, like, 2-color creatures, you can, keep pinging your battles. And this would still work with, like, the 2-color, like, all of the 2-color dragons as just, like, a way to fuel doing more damage. And then you could still run the other Niv-Mizzet if you wanted to. I don't know. I've got a lot to, like, sit and think here with, which is a good thing because the brew pot has not been working the last couple of weeks. But that said, I think I'm going to call it here. And sorry for rambling so much today, but I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulpey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.